Welcome to the Church of Perpetual Life, our live stream. I like to welcome you here on January 15th. Tonight we are celebrating James Bedford Day, which is often recognized on January 12th. And on this date, the city of Hollywood, Florida, has a proclamation in effect every year for this date to state that the city recognizes this day every year to be a celebration of James Bedford, the first person to be cryopreserved. Before we begin our program, I'd like to let you know all about our regular service. It's typically on the last Thursday of the month, as it will be this month. And so from January through May, we will have a hybrid and in-person event in Zoom, in Livestream, YouTube, as well as in person, except April. April will be online only. So visit with us this month. It'll be January the 29th. And this month we're pleased to have Dr. Khan and Bill Falloon giving presentations. Dr. Khan will be giving a presentation on the war against heart attacks, and Bill Falloon will give us an age reversal update. And so please mark your calendars this month for Thursday, January 29th. The social hour will be at 6 p.m. and the main event will start at 7 p.m. Come in person or come online. I'd also like to remind you that Rudy Hoffman will have his monthly Zoom tomorrow at 12 noon. If you'd like to connect with other cryonicists from around the world, you can contact Rudy Hoffman to access this event. It's the third Friday of every month, and he will have lead researcher this month, the lead researcher for Ray Kurzweil, who is John Clark 11, speaking about super artificial intelligence and the singularity. So contact Rudy Hoffman or contact me and I'll put you in touch with Rudy if you'd like to go to his cryonics event, which is the third Friday of the month. Now, please join with me to read the Perpetual Life Creed. We believe that all of life is sacred and that we have been given this one life to make unlimited. We believe in our Creator's divine plan for all of humanity to have infinite lifespans in perfect health and eternal joy, rendering death to be optional. By following our prophets, we achieve eternal life, creating a heaven here on earth. We follow Nikolai Fedorov, who taught that the transcendence of the Creator will be solved only when humanity, through our unified efforts, become an instrument of universal resuscitation, when the divine word becomes our divine action. And we follow Arthur C. Clarke, who said the only way to discover the limits of the possible is to go beyond them into the impossible. And so we enter each day energized in spirit and empowered by the words of our prophets to live in joy, serving our Creator and human race forever and ever. Our speaker tonight is Ben Best, who is the Secretary-Treasurer here at the Church of Perpetual Life. And he's the founder and the creator of this cryonic celebration of James Bedford Day. It was Ben's idea, and we're so glad to have him now. This is his 12th year anniversary celebrating Bedford Day here at Perpetual Life. And Ben has led this event every year. He's also one of the founders of the church. So I'd like to share a little bit of information about Ben's history with you. Ben Best is an icon in the American cryonics movement. He was president and CEO of the Cryonics Institute, one of the world's largest cryonics organizations, for 9 years between 2003 and 2012. Ben holds undergraduate degrees in pharmacy from the University of British Columbia and physics and computing sciences and finance from Simon Fraser University in British Columbia, Canada. Ben Best is also certified as a professional registered parliamentarian by the National Association of Parliamentarians, and he currently travels all around the world attending age reversal conferences and meetings with researchers working on reversing human aging. So please help me welcome Ben Best to our 12th annual day today, the celebration of James Bedford Day. Hello, Ben.
Okay. You see my screen? You hear
Yes,
my
we do.
voice?
Yes, it's coming in well.
Okay. So, um, let's see. Screen needs to work. All right. So, outline it. First, want to remember James Bedford, and then I do yearly updates on the COVID-19 pandemic, and then update on Crank's technology, mainly research. So January 12th is Bedford Day. He's the first person ever cryogenically preserved, and he's still being cryopreserved, and he's been in the connection for 59 years. And that's the Bedford. He wrote to Robert Enger in June 66 saying he was dying of liver cancer. He's preserved at the age of 73 on January 12th, 1967, and he's currently at Alcor being stored in liquid nitrogen. And this is the guy who coordinated the freezing, Robert Nelson, president of the Crying Society of California, CSC. He wrote a bunch of books about the subject. And they had the equipment set up to preserve Bedford, but the apparatus wasn't ready, so it was injected with DMSO 50 to 100 times through the carotid arteries, and but he probably got some antifreeze, and the family didn't trust Robert Nelson or the Crying Society of California to handle Bedford for more than a few days, and that was good judgment because all the CSC patients perished due to bad judgment and financial mismanagement by Robert Nelson. And by 1979, all the other CSC patients had been thawed or buried or cremated, and the loss of this was the equivalent for cranks of the Chatsworth disaster um, of the space shuttle explosion. Anyway, he's placed in dry ice for several days, maintained leak connection by his family, moved to Transdime in 67, and then back to Alcor and transferred to Alcor in 1982, and they've been there ever since. And his examination of his body in 1981 indicated he'd been frozen the whole time, and no rewarming had occurred in that period. So happy Bedford Day, everybody. This is the major chronic holiday of the year. Forget about Christmas and New Year's. This is the big one we all celebrate. Anyway. So anyway, I've been since COVID-19 hit, I've been doing updates on COVID-19 every year as part of my presentation. And March 11th, 2020, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 to be a pandemic, and in 2023, they declared COVID-19 is no longer a public health emergency. It's just an endemic. It's like influenza, although it's more deadly than influenza. But although scientific publications on COVID-19 decreased, publications on long COVID have increased. So why am I continuing to report on COVID-19? It's still life-threatening for those with compromised immune systems. Long COVID may be the tip of the iceberg about persistent health effects of COVID-19 and the COVID-19 vaccines. And COVID-19 still has dramatic implications for the political environment, which I will discuss at the end of this section. But first, I want to go review the molecular biology as I've done every year. It's a single strand. The virus is a single strand of RNA. It enters cells to take over the cellular machinery to manufacture itself, and it has spike protein with two components, S1 for binding and S2 for cell fusion. And the virus binds on S1 anyway. Um, so antigens are substances found on viruses, bacteria that cause an immune response. The spike protein antigen is the primary target of COVID-19 vaccines, mRNA vaccines. and all SARS-CoV variants involve modifications of the spike protein. So you can see this is it's covered with spikes, and the corona refers to a ground-like appearance, and the S1 binding domain attaches to ACE2 receptors on lung cells to gain entry, but there are ACE2 receptors on all sorts of organs of the body, kidney, heart, intestine. So it just gains entry through the lung, but once it gets in the body, it can bind to ACE2 the receptors on all these other organs. And but also the ACE2 on the cells required for attachment to cell membrane transmembrane protease serine 2 TMPRSS2 on epithelial cells, and the TMPRSS2 enzyme on the cells is required for the virus membrane to enter the cells. And this furin enzyme cuts the spike. S1 floats away, and the S2 fuses with the cell membrane. And so this is how the viral RNA gets into the cells. And an epitope is a foreign protein that elicits an antigenic response. And there's a bunch of epitopes on the SARS-2 virus, but the main one is for the spike protein. And that's what's targeted by the mRNA vaccines from Pfizer Moderna. And the mRNA vaccines, they use liposomes. These vaccines use liposomes similar to cell membranes to get entry into the cells, and they're protected from the immune system by polyethylene glycol. So we talk about mod RNA, and that's a synthetic messenger modified to make spike proteins for these vaccines. And liposomes can deliver the mod mRNA by fusing the cell membranes, just as others this virus does. And the mod RNA vaccine cell lipid nanoparticle fused with cell membranes. The mod RNA makes spike proteins produced in the cytoplasm, and then the spike proteins migrate to the surface, causing an antigenic response. So the first variant to gain major traction was the Alpha variant, and then the Delta variant, and finally Omicron took over in November 2021. It's the most transmissible, but the least pathogenic. And it shows the transmissibility of common cold, measles, and COVID Delta, but Omicron is the most transmissible, you can see from this chart. So mRNA vaccines use N-methyl pseudo-uridine instead of the uridine normally found in RNA. And that gives the vaccines, the RNA spike protein, a longer life and reduced immune response. And they use lipid nanoparticles, as I discussed before. And the spike proteins are toxic, capable of binding to ACE2 receptors, causing platelet aggravation and prion-like properties associated with neurodegeneration. But the mRNA, despite these risks, the mRNA vaccines have probably saved millions of lives. Now, long COVID symptoms of acute COVID vaccine can last for the acute vaccine, the acute virus can last from 2 weeks to 12 weeks. But after 8 weeks, long COVID, the extended form of the virus, the SARS-CoV, the virus is no longer present in the nasal cavity, but the viral proteins can be found in many body tissues, and it's associated with brain fog, insomnia, and otherwise fatigue is the exhaustion, even at rest, is the primary long-term consequence of long COVID. So if you're having chronic fatigue, maybe you've got long COVID and don't know it. Huh. Uh, I sort of suspect that for myself. Anyway, there's no simple diagnostic. There's a simple diagnostic test for COVID-19, the virus, but there's no diagnostic test for long COVID. And continuing on this, this the pathology of the spike protein, the Pfizer Moderna RNA viruses, the first mRNA vaccines authorized for public use. The mRNA vaccines cause cell to manufacture the SARS-CoV-2 virus protein to elicit the immune response. And the proteins are inflammatory and toxic cells, whether they come from the virus infection or vaccination. So lipid nanoparticles carry mRNA even crossing the blood-brain barrier. And neurological symptoms, cognitive impairment are features of acute COVID-19 vaccination and long COVID. So vaccine-derived spike proteins have been found in humans 6 to 15 months after vaccination or infection in those with long COVID, indicating spike proteins probable cause. It's highly persistent pathogenic substance causing pathogenic, and the spike protein binds to fibrinogen, leading to abnormal clots resistant to fibrin breakdown. Now, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the Secretary of Health and Human Services, currently under the Trump administration, declared mRNA COVID-19 vaccines the deadliest vaccines ever created, and he's advocating their removal. COVID-19 vaccines globally, all forms, not just the mRNA, up to October 24, reportedly prevented 2.9 million deaths. The vaccines prevented deaths does not mean the vaccines are not pathogenic. Both pathogenicity and prevention of death are likely. So we got this trade-off. You want to prevent death, that's the most important thing. As long as you're alive, you can do something, but you have to suffer from the pathogenic effects of the vaccines, but at least you're not dead, and suffering from these other effects is better. And actually, if you're vaccinated before COVID, before getting SARS-CoV-2 infection, it's associated with lower incidence of long COVID, especially after the second dose. So that's another benefit of vaccination, aside from preventing death. So early in 2020, Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, said face masks should be reserved for sick people, and expressed concern that face masks encourage people to touch their face. But in July 2020, he changed the position, saying that surgical face masks should be worn by everyone. A 2023 Cochrane review concluded surgical masks have not been shown to reduce the spread of virus, but a 2024 review in the United Kingdom concluded that N95 masks could reduce the spreading of the virus by a factor of 9. So the very first cases of COVID-19 in December 2019, hospitals in the city of Wuhan, China, has a population of 11 million, identified an atypical form of viral pneumonia. Many of the early diagnosed cases were epidemiologically linked to the Hunan seafood wholesale market, which sold freshly butchered animals and showed evidence of SARS-CoV-19 contaminated surfaces in many stalls. The Hunan seafood wholesale market was closed on January 1st, 2020, and subject to extensive cleaning and disinfected. Live animals were rapidly sold, killed, or removed. So key genetic material from the market was soon made inaccessible to scientists external to China. I'm not sure what the value of that material was that they collected, since they disinfected the market so quickly and got rid and cleaned it out. Anyway, if you go to covid.gov, on the Trump administration, now supposed to claim that COVID-19 virus was leaked to the Wuhan Institute of Virology and blamed Fauci for making false claim that COVID-19 arose naturally. So go to covid.gov and you'll see all the big picture of Donald Trump advocating blaming the Fauci and the Institute of Virology. Most scientists support the hypothesis that the SARS-CoV virus originated in bats, was transmitted to humans through identifier animal and through the market I mentioned previously, the seafood market. But then the lab leak hypothesis is improbable, can't be disproven. So Anthony Fauci supported gain of function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, defending himself in Congress using a non-standard definition of gain of function. In the last days of the Biden administration, President Biden pardoned Fauci against any possible prosecution. Trump declared the Fauci pardon invalid due to Biden's lack of cognitive capacity. Biden's White House physician, Dr. Kevin O'Connell, invoked the Fifth Amendment when questioned by Congress about Biden's cognitive capacity, refusing to testify. In the White House portraits of former presidents, Trump replaced Biden's portion with a picture of an auto pen. So any questions on this section?
So I don't see any questions at the moment. Let's go ahead and go forward. If there's any questions, we can also come back.
We can have more time for questions at the end. So
Yes.
next I want to talk about crimes-related research. So I'm Director of Research Oversight for BRLS, which is Biomedical Research and Longevity Society, and we spend roughly 8 to 9 million years funding crimes-related research, more than any single funding source. So one of the organizations we're funding is Biostasis Technology, which is headed by Ashwin DeWolf, and its mandate is development of technologies and standards for crimes procedures, full-time case review analysis, scientific advice, education, and training. Now, you see the initials SST often, and I'll mention them, so I might as well define them right here and now, in case you haven't heard those initials before. But when a client is dying, client's team comes to the patient's bedside and waits for the patient to die. And that's the S part, standby. After the patient is declared dead by a medical professional, begins cooling, chest compression, artificial ventilation, and stable, and administration of medications to suppress depressed metabolism. That's the S part for stabilization. And once the patient has been stabilized, the patient is transported in ice or dry ice to the cryonics organization located in another state or country. That's transport. So faster cooling is better. Ischemia is tissue damage due to lack of blood circulation. Faster cryonics patient can be cool. The less ischemic damage occurs in tissues. Cooling in ice baths is faster than cooling with ice bags. But circulating cold water is faster than just ice bath cooling. And this shows this chart, an old Alcor chart showing the difference. The top shows just using ice bags, the middle showing ice bath, and the lower, the squid is actually circulating water. And one thing BT has brought in this innovation is not only circulate the water around the patient, but circulate the water under the patient. So the patient's actually lying, otherwise the patient their backs would be on the table and they wouldn't be getting any of the benefit of the circulating water. Anyway, that's one innovation we can thank BT for. But internal cooling is faster than external cooling, and but to cool, you can put a cold fluid in the blood vessels, but that requires surgical access to blood vessels, which takes time and requires a standby surgeon. A better way of doing this would be liquid gas mixture through the lungs, which could be done rapidly without requiring surgery. So this is the kind of surgery that you do for intercooling. And liquid ventilation achieves intercooling by uh, cold liquid through the lungs and avoids surgery. Now, this is just a theoretical chart of on the left-hand side, we see of the very rapid cooling, but this is only theoretical. This is hasn't actually been achieved in practice. And that's what we're trying to do, is to achieve this in practice. And this is a guy building a machine to do that, Charles Platt. He's also built a lot of good ice baths that are portable and fold up and easily transferred. Now, I just want to know if the head of BT has come up with this S-mix, a measure of ischemic exposure. And ideally we have 0 minutes of ischemia. That's perfect. Zero, an S-mix of zero is a perfect score. And he's applied the S-mix standard to all the chronic patients of Alcor, and he determined the best S-mix scores were the ones done in Arizona, where close to Alcor. So rather than the fly and deploy model. So it's best to be right near the Cranks facility. So liquid ventilation, this is an example. These are pictures. Anyway, theoretical estimates of 0.22. It's pretty close to zero. And patient could be 7 degrees Celsius after 1 hour and 22 degrees Celsius after 20 minutes. Anyway, these are pictures of the liquid ventilation machine. But we were hoping to get this in testing in 2025, but Charles Black, because these things need to be air transported, and there's people in the airline industry are known for their gentle handling of baggage, so we had to rejigger the device to make sure it was able to handle this rough handling. So anyway, 2026 we may be do ventilation, but dummies and cadavers haven't been proved to be a way to do this. We need to use live patients. The cadavers are already cold. They need to be warmed up in order to do the liquid ventilation. That's not a reasonable thing to be doing. So the agreements have made with Cranks Institute to provide free SST services to terminal Cranks member who has not arranged for SST but is willing to be a test subject, and similar arrangements have been made with Tomorrow Biostasis. Now, another organization being funded by by RBS is Resurgent Biomedical and also Suspended Animation, and Houston Westfall is the executive officer. And he's on this call and he can answer any questions you might have after I'm finished my presentation. And but anyway, the suspended animation is based in California, and SST services applied to Alcor and the Cranks Institute throughout the United States based on the fly and deploy model, in which the SA team flies the location of the patient, provides SST, includes washing the blood with organ preservation solution, and shipping the patient to a Cranks organization in ice. And RBS, Resurgent Biomedical, is based in South Florida with branches in New York and California. SST includes perfusing the patient with vitrification solution and shipping in dry ice to Cranks organization. That's one of the options. RBS is operating an SA facility in Boynton Beach. Both SA and RBS employ perfusion.com for surgery and perfusion. RBS may employ flame deployment model for locations other than South Florida. It's currently providing services to tomorrow biostasis in the United States and is negotiating with Chronic Institute for providing vitrification solution perfusion and shipment dryers costing $18,000 more than suspended animation services. To report results with two Tomorrow Biostation patients handled by RBS in New York City, Tomorrow Biostation CEO Emil Hanziara has given authority to choose an SSD executive for RBS, approved by the RBS Board of Directors. So also, RBS has long-term plans create medical brands will provide hospitals advanced anti-aging medical services and CPS. The largest organization which is being funded by RBS is 21st Century Medicine, run by Greg Fay. It's got a lot of staff. The main aim is to produce rabbit kidney with a vitrification solution, cool the kidney, cryogenic temperatures, perform the kidney transplant to a rabbit with full function. And they want to do the same with pig kidney and eventually human kidneys. So vitrify means glassify. This is a way of preventing ice formation. It's just like glasses are it's a cool syrup. If you watch a glass blower making glass, it's a syrupy rather than crystalline form, which is what you're trying to get. You don't want crystals. Vitrification by cryoprotection is not called the mechanical damage of ice, but and it's a means of storing organs below cryogenic temperature without ice formation. So this is what on the left you see a frozen kidney. It's all looks like a snowball, and on the right a vitrified kidney looks like a perfect kidney preserved in glass. And to get avoid the ice formation, you got to use cryoprotectants, and these cryoprotectants interfere with the hydrogen bonding of water, and that's how they prevent ice formation. But unfortunately, they're toxic. And if cryoprotectants if the toxicity could be reduced, transplanted organs could be stored at low temperature, and chronic patients could be more easily preserved at cryogenic temperatures without ice formation. The challenges of preserving tissues and organs with CPAs is to use enough CPA to prevent ice formation, but not so much as to cause ice damage by cryoprotectant toxicity. If this toxicity didn't exist, CPAs could be used in larger quantities without worry of ice formation or cooling. So this has been the life's work of Greg Fay. Kidneys are the most transplantable human organs, but the demand is greater than supply, and most patients waiting for a transplant die waiting. So being able to vitrify and store kidneys at cryogenic temperatures will mean a great medical need and proof of principle of cryonics. And M22 is the cryoprotectant developed in 21st century medicine and used by Alcor for cryonics patients. So here's part of the problem is that when you vitrify, use cryoprotectants and cool to below below 90 degrees or in the air in the temperature range of minus 120. At that low temperature, this ice nucleation is formed, but there's no ice nucleation at minus 140. Anyway, ice growth is maximum at higher temperatures. When nuclei can cause their problems. So what this chart indicates is when you're cooling, there's no problem with ice formation. But when you're rewarming, you've got all these nuclei that were formed at low temperature, and these nuclei can cause ice growth. So we need to rewarm very rapidly. The rewarming is the challenging part of this process, not the cooling part. So Brian Walker's developed a radio frequency rewarming for kidneys, and higher warming rates can mean lower, less toxic concentrations of MF2, M22 can be used. So this is a chart sort of indicating maximized growth and the benefits of radio frequency warming, and it shows the difference between the kidney cortex, which is um, the least vulnerable, and the inner medulla of the kidney, which is um, the big problem. It shows the difference between conductive and RF rewarming. So actually, M22 has recently found some less toxic cryoprotective agents, and they're being tested to replace M22 in certain combinations for improved cryoprotection. And Ralph Spindler is the guy doing rabbit brain preservation in 21st century medicine. And he's shown preserved ultrastructure by opening the brain-brain barrier with detergent so that the M22 can get in the brain. And this is his latest achievement, showing these ultrastructure with his latest protocol. But also EEG is a better measure of preservation of the ultrastructure, and they've demonstrated retention of EEG. Now, intermediate temperature storage is a way of, we know at driest temperature, organs and patients can experience cracking due to this cracking does not occur at intermediate temperature storage. This is called intermediate temperature storage. And so 21st century medicine has built a 4-person ITS unit for European biostasis, which stores patients with biostasis. And this is the first whole body ITS unit ever built. And it was originally, the original completion date is 2024. The aluminum frame wasn't received until August 25, but it was finally completed in December 2025. And as Saul Kent once memorably said, everything takes longer than you expect, except aging. My favorite Saul Kent quote. Anyway, these were the steps to complete to complete the ITS unit, and it's been all these steps have been completed development, but it still needs to be shipped to Switzerland. So in 2026, wants to apply for a patent on new cryoprotectant. Things are looking good with his new cryoprotectants. He's finally going to be able to achieve the goal of all these decades of research to try to perfuse rabbit kidneys, to cool them cryogenic temperature, rewarm them, and transfer them back into rabbits. Another big breakthrough is Greg Fay wrote an article to be published soon that documents brain tissue preservation by Alcor patient Dr. Stephen Coles, refuting the claims of aldehyde stabilized cryoprotectant proponents that brain ultrastructure, the connectome, is not preserved by cryonics procedures. This paper will demonstrate to the world that that it will be. He's not going to submit this to cryobiology, that journal is pretty hostile to cryonics, and but he's submitting to +1. He submitted +1 journal. Anyway, Dr. Rudolfo Goy, who's also on this call, is also a beneficiary of of RBS funding, and you can ask him questions after I'm finished talking about his research. And first started working with C. elegans worms, and he's now and he used magnetic nanoparticles to increase the survival of C. elegans. And actually, the magnetic nanoparticles have already been used to to achieve with rat kidneys what Greg Fay's been trying to do for years with rabbit kidneys. Rabbit kidneys are a lot larger than rat kidneys, so it's more challenging. But they were the rat kidneys were rewarmed with iron nanoparticles. So Dr. Goy's plans for 2026, well, in 2025, you loaded 5 mouse hearts with cryoprotection, cooled them -6 degrees, rewarmed them with three of the 5 hearts beating within seconds of reperfusion. So for 2026, Dr. Goy is going to remove mouse hearts, perfuse them with HTK preservation solution used in organ transplants, and perfuse them with cryoprotected agent containing magnetic oxide nanoparticles, MCPA calls it, and follow that hearts to cold, store cryogen temperatures. Following following which the mouth hearts are rewarmed and heated. And the vitrified mouse hearts containing mouse MCPA are rewarmed with alternating magnetic fields rather than the RF used by 21st century for rewarming rabbit kidneys. If applied to human hearts, vitrification to extend the storage time from 4 hours to unlimited storage time. So another recipient of RBS funding is Alexandra Stolzig. She's a distinguished professor, and she has FNT labs that works within 21st century medicine. And she was inspired by Yale research, which was able to restore pig brain metabolism 4 hours after the pigs died. By improving the perfusion solution, FNT Labs has maintained pig brains for 16 hours after the pigs died, possibly stopping cell death after 9 hours and restoring electro EEG signals not done by the Yale study. In 2026, FDA lab wants to add mitochondria for exosomes to the perfusion solution. And these protocols could be applicable to enable recovery of brain tissue in stroke victims. So the last organization that I'm going to discuss receiving RBS funding is A&B Advanced Neurobiosciences, which is also like PT run by Ashwin DeWolf. And they've got a nice laboratory, and their head of operations is Susan Dionys, skilled in rat microsurgery. The big news is that CryoDAO, a decentralized autonomous organization that funds crying projects, they granted $900,000 to Ashwin DeWolf for research aimed at whole body cryopreservation of rats. As Rudy mentioned earlier in this call, this has been a dream of actually cryopreserving a whole mammal, and people even Peter Thiel was advocating this, but the barriers to doing this. But anyway, it's allowed A&B to acquire equipment you also used in A&B research, including a cooler that can cool to liquid nitrogen temperature at a controlled cooling rate. But the major piece of equipment that they've gotten is a micro CT scanner. A CT scanner is used in rats. And this CT scanner can allow for monitoring of distinct organs as perfusion proceeds. And the micro CT scanner is so large and heavy that it can only be placed in the A&B foyer. They couldn't move it anywhere else in the building. It's the entrance hall. So here's the on the left you see the micro CT scanner, and these are all the five A and B staff members in the meeting in the foyer, and so VM1 is used by crank system and raw body stations, whereas M22 is used by Alcor for vitrification solution. M22 is optimized for rabbit kidney slice graft protection, whereas VM1 was optimized for rat brain hippocampal by Dr. Yurpa Shugan. AMB is researching the properties of graft protection VM1 with results to be published in a peer-reviewed journal in 2026. The 21 CM cryoprotect M22 has multiple peer-reviewed journal publications, but VF1 has none so far. M22 is very expensive, whereas VM1 is not expensive. VM1 has shown good stability in dry ice, whereas M22 readily forms ice at driest temperature. This makes VM1 valuable for field cryoprotection prior to shipment and dry ice to chronic organization. And that's my presentation.
And we have a few questions for you. Thank you very much. First off, is M22 considered the best product to use at this time?
Well, you get different opinions. Ashwin might say VM1 is better, and Greg Fay would say M22 is better.
Okay, fair enough. Question first from Rudy. Wonder if you could talk about the toxicity of CPAs at various concentrations and temperatures. Do you know if the new CPA 21 Century Medicine's developing has a lower toxicity?
This is a question still being researched.
Okay.
One of our projects is to compare M22 with VM1 in various circumstances. Because this is a very critical question. Because as I say, tomorrow Biostasis uses and Crying System use VM1, whereas Alcor uses M22, and so there's a lot of strong feelings involved. And 21st Century Medicine claims they're the only people who can do proper comparison, but AMB is going to do their own comparisons, and they may come up with similar. But anyway, science should be objective, and we should get an objective answer to this question. But this is one of the topics being funded.
Okay, another question. Ben, could you identify what the bottlenecks are to reversible organ cryopreservation and viability for mainstream medicine? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, cryoprotectant toxicity. You want to use enough cryoprotectant to prevent ice formation, but not enough to get toxic effects. And and 21st Century Medicine has found a new cryoprotectant which is much less toxic and seems to have better perfusion capabilities. And they're very hopeful of having a major breakthrough in the first quarter of 2026.
Right. Another question, would cohesive collaboration among the various laboratories doing cryo research improve the odds of breakthroughs and prestigious journal publishing, in your opinion?
Say that
In other
again.
words, do you think that the
Cooperation? There's RBS and BT, I think, cooperate very closely, but Houston can comment on that as being directly involved. And I believe I've encouraged cooperation between A and B and 21st Century Medicine. Ashton DeWolf is scheduled to visit 21st Century Medicine to experience firsthand the work that Ralph Spindler is doing with rabbit brains. And Bill Falloon is also has been pushing cooperation between 21st century medicine and Alcor. But I think as far as I'm being told by Greg Fay and Brian Woke, that's already occurring. But Bill wants to see more.
Yeah, I think we all want to see more. I think when collaboration occurs, we all benefit. But of course, laboratories have their own protocols and ideas on that. Um, Someone's asking if we can get a copy of the slides, and I'll address that afterwards. Um, but there's a statement in here from one of the Rudies that your presentation is high content. Good presentation, Rudy. Rudy says, so good work, Ben. Thank you for this
Which
presentation.
Rudy is this?
That's Rudy Hoffman saying that.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I
Let's
was
see.
curious about what Rudy Goya thought about how well I covered his work.
Well, you'll be able to speak with Rudy, both Rudies, when we're done here in the Zoom, if you'll stay with us.
All right.
Let me see if there's any other questions. I'm looking on YouTube live stream. I don't see any. And are there any other? Well, here's one just came in. Is there any cryonics tech focused on the rejuvenation instead of preservation? Any that you're aware of?
You mean reanimation?
Yes, that's what the
Well,
question
in
is.
a way, 21st century, in a way, this research is also, we're trying to rejuvenate these um, rabbit kidneys. We're trying to cool them and bring them make them fully functional and transplantable. So that's 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 addresses that issue, I think.
Okay. And let's see if there's anything else in here. I think I've got all the questions. Is there anyone else that has a question for Ben?
Well, if we're having a Zoom meeting, they can do it spontaneously.
Yes, please let me invite everyone who's in Zoom to stay with us in Zoom so that you can be in the after party. And I want to thank you again, Ben, for a great presentation. Let me finish this up here and then we'll go into our after party. So if you're interested, if anyone is interested in cryonics and you don't have the information you need, please contact me. I'm happy to put you in touch with the different organizations and get you whatever information I can on cryonics. If you're watching this recording, know that you can reach me at neil@churchofperpetuallife.org. So you can email me right through the website at perpetual.life, and you can send me your questions or comments there. And I'd like to remind you that at the end of this month, at the last Thursday of January, that's January 29th, we will have our regular meeting of the month. And I want to thank Ben again for the idea of celebrating Bedford Day in this manner and for leading all of our Bedford days. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you.
Yeah, also, for the person who asked about the slides, remember that this meeting is being recorded and they can review the meeting at their own pleasure by going to the Church of Perpetual Life website.
That's right. That's right. Just go to the Perpetual Life website. At the top of the site, you'll see YouTube live stream. Click on that and you'll be able to see the recorded version of this event. Thank you, Ben.
And
thank
you
you
can
all.
proceed at your own rate. You don't have to go listen to my slow talking. You can go to the sections of interest to you. So it's
Yes.
better than anyway.
Yes, that's true. Very good. All right. So we'll close this out then. Thank you very much, everybody.